Welcome to the JayBee and Mark Marsh
Welcome.
Halloween special. Today we are going to be discussing what Scooby Doo villains would make the creepiest horror movie antagonists. Beware, you're in for a scare. Today we have a very, very interesting topic. A bit of a creepy topic, but let's just get straight into it because I should have just edited in that bizarre intro that we recorded before. I don't know what people are going to make of that. Maybe people are going to leave instantly. I don't blame you. It was just an off the cuff thing, but let's discuss it. I should have had a list of five. I've got five, but one's kind of an honorable mention just because it's something that scares me personally. But we'll kick off with you, Mark. What is your concept? The fifth concept, number
Okay,
five.
so I don't even know particular order. So the first one I'm
Hmm.
going to go with is the Puppet Master, which was part of the Backstage Rage episode for season one, episode 9 of Where Are You? And I really feel like this particular villain is the perfect trait for a serial killer. Okay, because it's an old guy who controls puppets, but also has an alter ego. I'm
True.
definitely feeling like Jack the Ripper vibes when I see the Backstage Rage, and I thought the creepy environment, the old music hall. I just feel like it's the perfect place, a lair where a serial killer would abduct his victims, dissect them, do all the weird shit to them. I feel like that's what I'm looking at when I see this villain. Like, if you're gonna make it into a proper villain, like dark puppet master straight away, and he can and its sick trait would be where he can puppet his own dead caught victims around. So you think you're talking to someone, but it's actually a puppet. You know, the guy's already dead, but you don't know if he's real or not because the guy can mimic his voices and that. Mate, got potential for this
Mm.
serial killer.
I mean, in that
I might have
version,
overthought the puppet master, to be
no,
fair.
that's like, I
I
mean,
overthought
I will
it.
admit, I'm gonna have to put a disclaimer at the start. Like, this is the Halloween horror episode. We're gonna get a bit dark potentially. But in that version of events, is it say a Scooby Doo horror movie that you're thinking of, or is it if this character was a part of a horror movie as
If this
such?
character was part of a horror
Oh, I love
movie,
that. I love that.
but also if you throw in the gang as well, you could do that where they know murders are real. But it's like the tone of it is like starts off bloody. Like,
They could do a
imagine
bit
that
like a
though,
Scooby
where
Natural vibe.
he kills his victims and masquerades them around like they're still alive.
I like that a lot, you know. Now, I suppose if there's nothing else to add on to that, I want to give my criteria. Now, I wanted to do ones that didn't instantly jump out to me as obvious. So I thought about the werewolf because werewolves are genuinely scary, and I didn't think so. The ghost clown, maybe a bit too close to Pennywise. So I'll try to choose a list that would scare me personally, but also was a bit different. And so to start off with that, my fifth one is a little bit similar to yours, but it's the spooky demons from the live action Scooby Doo movie. Because I feel
Oh,
like with them, if you upped the ante a bit, like maybe James Gunn wanted to, what you've got on your hands is not only a cult, but also skinwalkers as well. I think that would be amazing. So I'm almost thinking about, and I did visualize all this as a cabin in the woods setting. So you've got a group of people, not necessarily the gang, they go into a basement and there's say different artifacts lying around. Maybe one of them's the Damon Writers. If they play with the Damon Writers, they get the spooky demon villain. And that's purely to say all the ones that I've picked are gonna just be if it was a random bunch of characters in a horror movie. There's not really much special about them, but I kind of just wanted to see what these villains would do in the real world. And I'm just thinking, like, I mean, there's scary stuff as it is when it comes to cults, be it, religious zealots or, God, I don't want to say this but again, there's been a disclaimer, like cannibals, like a group of people that believe something.
yeah.
Imagine these all working to world domination, except a part of that is doing mass attacks, kidnapping civilians, dragging them back to a layer to ultimately extract their beings out of them to put themselves in. That's horrifying.
That could
Like
be like
when you think
it
about
could be
it.
like a proper horror movie itself. Like, probably on par with Exorcist if you wanted to.
They are
Possessing the bodies.
skinwalkers, essentially. And I just think I remember from the 2002 movie, the one scene that scared me as a kid was when Mary Jane gets hit in the face and she has to like readjust the
Oh
mask.
yeah.
I'm just thinking about like the body horror that could go into that, like, and you could even make it a little bit more of an intimate setting. So maybe frame it like this: there's a sibling or mother, daughter, father, daughter, whatever. They've been distant for a while, but now they're trying to reconnect. Halfway through the trip, one of them gets replaced by the spooky demons. And now you've got a scenario where perhaps the humans trying to fight back, but ultimately they're the demon on the inside, and the person with them is trying to figure out what's wrong with them until eventually it all breaks loose. Like, just stuff like that, I think would be incredible.
That's
So yeah, number
that would
5,
be a great
spooky
movie.
demon. So Mark, what is your number 4th pick?
So my next one is The Mummy of Uckana, which was the Scooby Doo and the Mummy 2 episode from Where Are You, episode 12. And the reason why I went with the mummy one, I think like I'm obsessed with mummies to begin with Ben Fraser, but I feel like they're overpowered, they're mighty strong. There's not really a lot of ways you can kill a mummy. You know, you can shoot them, you can stab them, they're still going to come. But you know, this mummy is just on a killing rampage, and from the episode, it can turn the victims to stone, like petrification. So you know, that's something else you're trying to beat, and practically an immortal being that can turn the victims into stone, but with a twist of like stealing your life energy to prolong its life. Like
Ooh,
that would be
I
a
love
great
that.
taste. I feel
And
like it has great potential.
people that have watched this for a while will know that I'm also obsessed with mummies. Um,
Because
like Sarah Michelle
I try
Gellar.
to pick monsters that
But
don't have a
yeah.
lot of weaknesses. Because I feel like
Ooh.
if I chose one with weaknesses, the move would be over quick. Let's take vampires
Could you
for
torch the mummy?
he could, but it's undead, so it
Oh,
will
that's a good
still be
point.
alive unless you could break its curse. Where curse is a lot harder to deal with. Like take for vampire. Vampire, all you gotta do is wait till daytime, boom, vampire's useless. Werewolves got silver, werewolves useless. So I'm trying to pick ones where it's gonna be a lot harder to kill. If you've got petrification, it can turn you into stone before you can get the torch to it. But then if you do burn it, is it actually going to be dead? You know, is that what keeps it alive? Or does it manifest into another victim?
I like that
I
a
think
lot.
cursed beings are a lot harder to deal with because you got to exercise it out of it
Would
or
your
destroy a
version of the
cursed totem.
mummy have the same type of motivations as far as would it be after an artifact like a coin that a protagonist has or something along those lines?
I would like it to have some sort of like possession to some sort of relic. So that way, at least then we know what it's after. A bit like Ben Fraser's mummy, where it just wants to be whole again to have all the power, but the amulet coin could be its one big treasure, but also its weakness.
I do
That
love
makes
what you
sense.
said about the life force because you could imagine the mummy getting stronger as
Yeah.
the humans start to wither and
So once you
stuff like
turn a
that.
stone, that means they're gone for.
Oh,
Says
see, that's almost like Medusa as well, really. That'll be fun. That'll be fun. So, my number 4th one is a little bit interesting and potentially goofy. Now, I know that I said I wasn't going to do the ghost clown because I felt like, for me personally, it would be maybe a bit too much like Pennywise. But I'm personally not a fan of clowns. I've never been scared of them as such. It's not clownophobia. It's just I can see why they're creepy. So I've gone for the metal clown from What's New Scooby Doo from the golf episode. Because I'm thinking if you just not make it outlandishly tall like it was in that and make it almost human size or like a really tall human to say edging 7 foot, maybe something like that, maybe like 6 foot something. You could have something like Pennywise mixed with Five Nights at Freddy's. So you've got a killer robot, a killer animatronic that looks like a clown. And then I think you've kind of got a pretty decent topic on your hands there where you could imagine you're in a carnival setting, say it's a school trip or a family is visiting, or even just two teenagers trying to get it on. They're like going on a date to a school trip, or like they're going on a date, to the
And
carnival.
this mutations just killing
Yeah,
them off
this,
one by one.
and you can imagine he's got the smile of a clown, like Pennywise, but instead of going for that more like "Hi Geordie" aesthetic, it's like chomping down metal teeth. Like, I just think that the idea of a killer robot clown is awesome. And I don't think it's been done before, right? Like, we've had alien clowns
No, we had
and
alien
killer
clowns
clowns,
or
but a
killer
robot
clowns, but
clown,
a robot clown has never been done
that
before.
would just be amazing.
I know they're making like a Five Nights at Freddy's movie,
It could be like that.
so that
Because
you
some
could
circus stuff
do it
like
like
that.
that.
Because there's clown-like robots in Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, Sister Location had Baby, who's kind of clowny. FNAF 2 had Balloon Boy. That's a bit like a clown. So I just think maybe the people that worked on the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, if it is good, which by the time this episode goes out, we should know. Like, oh, let me check. Well, I'm not going to check, but this should go out the last Wednesday before Halloween. So maybe this even gets put out on FNAF release day. So fingers crossed. But I love that idea. I love that idea. So yeah, the metal clown for me is number 4. What is your? Are we on to your 4th one or your 3rd one now?
Third one now. So my third one is the Headless Horseman from the episode The Headless Horseman of Halloween, which was the season 1, episode 3 of Scooby Doo and Dynamite Hour run. And the reason why is because if you watch the episode alone, it's creepy in its own sense, but like I feel like the villain has more potential to be on a murderous rampage.
Mm.
Lost without a head and has a pumpkin, but also trying to find a head for his own host. So he's killing victims trying to find the perfect head for his host body. But that is sense
Oh, nice.
where he pretty much kills people in the mist, the fog, trying on their heads, and people just seem to decapitate bodies left and right until he finds his perfect head so he can seek revenge. I feel like that itself would be a great horror.
That sounds like something from like Scariest Stories to Tell in the Dark. That's awesome. Like very 18 plus if that's going to
Because
be a
when I
movie,
watched
but
that growing
interesting.
up, that episode itself was so scary. I loved it. I still love it to this day. But as a kid, it was terrifying. It's just the way the horse comes, the horse rider, the headless horseman comes at the fog in a terrifying way, where you don't see it until the moment you want to, and you hear the build up for it, and just sends shivers down you. And it's just the way he goes, "I want a head." That itself would just scare the shit out of anyone.
You
Imagine
get
that
the
you're at a
right
party and you just see some
actor.
guy ripping people's heads off, saying, "I want a head." But like,
You know, like a little edgy joke. You get like a teen at the
yeah,
club go, "Yeah, me too,
yeah,
pal." And then
yeah.
just
You could throw in the adult humor as well in there. It's just like,
oh god, it's just crazy. But yeah, that's actually wild. That almost seems like one made for the horror genre. I wonder how much the horror was in their minds at the time. That's kind of interesting. Kind of interesting. But yeah, the Headless Horseman would be absolutely incredible. Now, the third one that I've got is a little bit goofy, I think, potentially goofy, because it's just based on something that I've got a ridiculous fear of. I am really, really scared of static electricity. I can't have a static shock in public without screaming. I don't know what it is. If I see, like, even, sometimes when you plug something in and you see that little flash underneath,
yeah.
that really scares me. For some reason, I've
Or
got
when
an
you touch
irrational
the railing
fear.
randomly and you get like a shock
Yeah.
on your arm.
For some reason, I've got an irrational fear of electricity, which is crazy considering that I'm with electronics like 95% of the time. But the 10,000 volt ghost to me, if I had like a Harry Potter bog art in front of me, it would probably turn into the 10,000 volt ghost. I know that that's probably not going to be scary for a lot of people, but that would terrify me. And I've got this one visual, this one horror visual. So you've got a would-be victim or a victim to be standing at the end of a corridor. You'd imagine lights are on. 10,000 volt ghost on the other side of that corridor with like an evil grin on its face. The character blinks or something and it disappears. And one by one, the light bulbs all start smashing, like all getting closer and closer to the victim. until the 10,000 volt ghost just whooshes out of the one closest to it and just fries it. I think that would be cool. Just that one visual, just dun, 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 the lights exploding as they get closer, and then I just think that's cool. And that's the only concept I've got. Just that one scene. But if they can make it work, a 10,000 volt ghost horror, like scary movie.
And with a 10,000 volt ghost, it has two potentials. Like it can get stronger by taking the electric from the power grid or from homes, or it can devour the human body.
Because it could literally fry people. That's and even the one from Monsters Unleashed used to scare me because the voice as well. And I feel like people in like in movies nowadays, you never hear references to people dying or something. But back then, it was so bizarre going back to Monsters Unleashed now and hearing the 10,000 volt ghost saying "End of the line, Mystery Inc." and then die. Like, I can't remember the last time in a family-friendly movie the villain was like die.
Would say die. Yeah, they don't. It's just like it's so unheard of now. It's like its last battle cry.
But now it scares me. So yeah, 10,000 volt ghost is my third one.
I feel like the worst the villain from that movie is the cotton candy floss because essentially it got murdered by Shaggy and Scooby.
Yeah, like literally just
no one talks about that. They cannibalized. They ate that monster, the first monster that they're not afraid that they
My
eat.
curiosity would be, unless they've had time to digest or unless they've had a massive dookie, shall we say, in between scenes.
The weird thing is,
when that thing turns back into the costume, don't they have the costume in them still?
Yeah.
Like that's gonna turn back into just a fake costume with inside the digestive system.
No, I'll give you calories. Oh. Just love that scene. He's dying and he says, "I'll give you calories." I'm like, oh god, it's the first of the villains.
Like cavities,
the prey.
Actually, no, my teeth have gone to the dogs, so that would scare me because I couldn't stop myself.
I would devour that cotton candy floss monster. It's like because I'm looking back at it, was there actually a monster that's cotton candy?
Oh gosh, I don't think so. I think there were other types of blobs it was based off.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, they kind of did make a cotton candy variant when the tar monster goes into the machine in Cyber Chase.
Oh,
like it looks very much like the cotton candy blob in that scene. So yeah, are we on to your second one now?
Yes. So my second one, I went with zombies.
Ooh.
Because of Zombie Island, but I want to do it where the world is pretty much infested with the undead for a virus mutation, and then they're so much they're killing humans after another, and then turning them into more zombies. And it's up to the gang to kill as many as they can. It's a bit like The Walking Dead meets Scooby Doo in that sense.
See, that's what I was expecting from Scooby Apocalypse, really. Not that I'm disappointed,
because
but
Scoob Apocalypse isn't undead zombies; it's more mutations gone wrong.
They remind me of like Cronenberg's from Rick and Morty.
Yeah, so they really went wrong there, but it's still a good comic book to read. Fantastic. I wish it was made into a show. If they were an anime, but for like zombies, they could definitely pretty much steal elements from The Walking Dead and throw Scooby Doo in there. Because zombies, I love zombie movies. I've seen so many countless zombie movies from George Romero and all that. It's like there's so much potential, and they're creepy as hell. You've got smart zombies, you've got dull zombies, you've got zombies that can run, and you've got feral zombies. There's all these different variations that you can mix with, and seeing the gang fight these undeads, watching their loved ones being devoured in front of their eyes, and then having one of them team members get bitten and turned. Because any good zombie movie, you need at least one friend close to you to die. I'm sorry, but you're going to have to witness someone die. It could either be Fred, Daphne, Velma. Hopefully it's not Shaggy, but one of them has to go straight away.
Maybe Velma.
She gets so bitten, sad, and then Shaggy's there just have the killer. I'm sorry, Velma.
Like what are we doing?
To do a scene with them, like, oh my god, I think I could find a cure. She gets bitten. Well, that's a cure out of the way.
Dude, that's awesome. You could also have like Scooby Doo on Zombie World or Zombie Planet. Yeah. Scooby Doo on Zombie Planet. That would be a good sequel to Zombie Island. Like, not Not what Return to Zombie Island was, but you could have like a proper good
Yeah,
zombie flick. Oh, I'd love that. That'd be amazing. And like you were saying with the different variants, you could even have like what is it? Because I think they hinted at this, but they didn't really go all the way in the second Zombieland movie. With the homers, the T1000s, like it'd be cool to have like indestructible zombies and sneaky zombies. Oh, and even The Walking Dead, they had like feral humans.
yeah,
Oh,
and
that scared
especially
me.
the smart ones that could open up doors.
Oh, and use like pick up stuff.
Yeah, which was a good way to introduce a new variant. I think running ones would have been way more harder.
Yeah. Or you could even make it like a Scooby Doo unmasking, and you could have like the Whisperers from The Walking Dead. That'd be interesting. Yeah, I love that zombie thing. Because I feel like we're not really getting any zombie media lately. Because I was thinking, I was in Asda the other day, and I saw we have like an SFX magazine, and it was dedicated to the new Daryl TV show, Walking Dead Daryl Dixon. And it's like we've got a whole magazine dedicated to that in Asda, but I don't think we've even got access to that show, do
No, so there's Dead City, which is fantastic. Then there's supposed to be Michonne one where she finds Rick, and then there's meant to be Daryl Dixon's journey, which is the trailer looks amazing, which I'm looking forward to that one because Daryl Dixon, I am so glad that they made that character because it wasn't going to happen. And I'm so glad because every single time I watched the episode, I was like, they better not kill my Daryl. They better not kill him. They better not. That's the only reason why I watched the show is because of him. And some songs I was like, oh God, is he dead? No, he's still alive.
we? No, he's really good,
He
and it's so
makes
mad to
that.
think that he's not in the comics, isn't it?
No,
So
he's not in the
it's so
no
cool that
because
they've
he
made
was
that
meant to
character.
be he auditioned for Myrtle. He didn't get a Myrtle, but then they tried to make a brother called Daryl Dixon instead. But everyone just loved him instantly, so they kept him in.
I like that. It reminds me a bit of what happened
So
with
you can't really follow the
Steve
comics to get insight into the
from
character.
Stranger Things.
He just doesn't exist in the comics, so he's like a new character to be explored. It's like, mate, they can do whatever they want with him. He has
Mm,
free reign over the Walking Dead universe. He doesn't
mm.
have to abide by the whole rules or nothing. He can do his own thing. It's like a god.
But yeah, zombies. I love that so much.
Zombies. They need to bring zombies back
My
because
second one is, do you remember the ghost of Dr. Coffin? So that's from, I forget that it was from that episode where I think it was it was the Scooby Doo show where the gang are on a car journey. They end up stopping
is
by
it?
a vet. It's the dancing dog episode.
Oh, the dancing dog episode. So it's not part of the segment shorts.
No, I think
No,
it's like
no.
the full thing.
Okay, the full. Was it the new one or the original Scrappy Doo show?
I don't think it was. I think it was just the Scooby Doo show, like the
Show.
third version. So, just to me personally, the idea of a doctor killing their patients is so dark. It realistically should never ever happen. And yet, unfortunately, when you look at the real world, sometimes it
It
does.
does happen.
So with that kind of horror aspect where someone that you're putting in a position of trust, someone that you should be able to depend on, is actually just some type of lunatic, to me, that's never not going to be scary. And so Dr. Coffin, he just is terrifying. And the design of him, he's like a weedy person with the
Yeah.
medical gear on. It's just, I could imagine the whole kind of movie all taking place in a hospital. And maybe it's from even a child's perspective. They're just witnessing some of the people from different wards going missing. Maybe the child is walking around to stave off a bit of boredom. And just some of the friends they make in the different units, one by one, to start to get picked off. And they're kind of realizing, well, something's not right in this place. Let's explore. Let's get to the bottom of it. And there you can get scenes of Dr. Coffin in an operating theater. I mean, my dad was a performing surgeon for a while, and he told me that back then, one thing that used to help him was they used to let them like just blast music out in the operating theater. So to me, I'm just got an idea of, like in Insidious, where you've got tiptoe through the
Yeah,
window, just Dr. Coffin listening to some like
just
deranged song on full blast, just doing his thing with the scalpel. Like, oh, I don't know, that just seems wild to me.
that,
Like,
or playing Psycho Killer.
or what's like, you remember like Avenged Sevenfold, or like Edgar Wright. I'd love to see him do some like evil slicing and dicing to the beat of a song, like super stylized, just like an Edgar Wright scene.
Just creepy, intense music for the build up,
But yeah, Doctor Coffin. I mean, there's not much to say
and
without going horrifically macabre,
with
but
doctors
I
as well.
like the idea.
It's be so hard because you could probably see that villain in his normal day-to-day life where he acts normal to people, friendly, helps some people, but then he's like, don't like this person. This person's gonna die today.
You could even make it a bit even darker. You could set it during a pandemic. Maybe there's people in the countryside desperate for treatment.
Yeah,
They
and
go to him.
he's like, you're gonna die, you're gonna
Yeah, he
die.
takes advantage of the situation. I don't know. Just that idea of a killer doctor. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. So yeah, that was.
Especially when you fall asleep as well, and you start closing your eyes, you
Oh
drift off,
no.
and the suspense is, are you actually gonna wake up alive,
Oh, and the last thing you see
or
is
is that
just.
it? Yeah,
Oh, I don't
it's
like
just a
that.
doctor's creepy face looking down on you.
But yeah, that's my number two. So are we on to your number one now?
Yeah, so my number one, or I'll save the best for last, is the Giggling Green Ghosts, which was part of
Mm.
Night of Fright is No Delight. And the reason why I chose that one is because we saw from the Supernatural crossover, just as I always expected, it has the perfect lineup for a serial killer. But the ghost with the Supernatural crossover killed the victim in the house in the most horrific ways possible. Imagine doing that as an actual dark horror episode where they're stuck in a mansion for the night and it's basically kill or be killed with this ghost, and the last one standing wins. So, House on Haunted Hill, it could be like that, where over the years this ghost has been killing people for frenzies, and like as the night goes on, the later it gets, the more hallucinating stuff they see, where they see past ghosts that have been murdered brutally in that mansion, trying to escape, but they can't, and the ghost won't let them. The victims of the prowess. I feel like that would have such a psychological effect on the gang, scarring them, knowing that they come across these brutal murders, knowing that their friends are being killed one by one, and they can't do anything about it. They can't call for help. They can't leave. They got to like survive the night. But the twist is only one can actually survive.
Mhm. That's very, very brutal. Very like almost Hunger Gamesy like
Yeah.
type thing. Like it's the reward, but also like the winner is really the one that survives, which is kind of interesting. I mean, I am always personally kind of more on the line of I want to see the real world implications of these villains as opposed to putting Mystery Inc. through horrific things. But just that thought is so interesting. I think that they should lean into something one day, even if it is just for parody. Like obviously, like we discussed in a prior episode about the multiverse, like there's gonna be a horror universe out there with Scooby Doo, so it could be cool to lean into that.
Because when
But
you
I
watch
like
Scooby
that.
Doo, it's like they don't acknowledge murder exists. So when they try and show newspapers or at least anything to do with the media in Scooby Doo shows and movies, they never once mention murder. So the murder rate in those shows and movies is zero. No one dies by being murdered. Not even if it's accidental. It's like, oh, they just passed away. Knife in the back of the throat. Yeah, suicide. Self-defense. Yeah, he slipped on a butter knife. That's what I was wondering. Is that no one's panicking about, oh, there's a mass murder in town. Like, you think about it, in America, there must be like, in a small town, there must be like, oh, one day, oh, there's a mass serial killer on the loose. Scooby Universe, nothing. Then just roll in one day and boom, a mass serial killer's on the loose.
Yeah, we definitely psychological. Like, again, like I don't think we'd even know like to put ourselves in that position because this is going to be a very off-topic question, but I think relevant. When was the last time we had a notable like killer on the loose in England? Because last thing I can not remember, obviously, but like the Yorkshire Ripper in the 70s, like that's the
Yeah,
only time I think there's this person on the loose. Lock your doors and like imagine there's probably so many scares in America
but though the Yorkshire Ripper got caught in the end.
in the 70s. Or was it the 80s?
I think they caught him in the 80s. They caught him eventually. They
There
the
was a
Ripper in
lot
the
of serial
70s.
killers in the 70s, 80s. I wonder
A lot,
why.
but now it's like there's not really there's like gang violence that, but there's I
Oh
don't really
yeah.
like there's not really like a serial killer. Especially where I am, there's been nothing. There's been a few stabbings, but that's about it.
Yeah, like over here, like on this side of Preston, the most dangerous thing is the kebab shop on the corner, probably getting you food poisoning. Like that's the
Yeah,
reality. So I can get quite spooked very easily, but I used to get spooked a lot as a child as well, more so than I do now. You'd hope that's genuinely the case between people. But one thing that did used to scare me a lot was the mirror scene from Ghoul School. When Shaggy looked
yes,
in the mirror and turned into like his face
yes.
morphed into that demon, that used to terrify me as a child
That got me.
more than anything from the live actions.
Because
Like
every time
that
after
got
that
me.
scene, every time I looked in the mirror, I was like, "Are you gonna take me?" I
So
was like, "Am I gonna be taken?"
that is my number one pick.
Because
The mirror
that
demon.
yeah, it's just like the way you just took Shaggy out of there, and like no one knew it was evil Shaggy. It's like, mate, how did you not know?
It's just so scary. Like the design was terrifying. And just imagine you looking into the mirror and it morphing into something, and then people around you that are interacting with you, you could almost have a scene where you're worried about what that demon's gonna do, and you're just being able to watch by that in the mirror, not being able to help or warn anyone. I just think that's really scary. And it is definitely only my number one pick because it used to scare me a lot. Maybe I've got less concepts for it than some of the other ones, but just that scene in general, the thought of you watching from like a veil where some imposter is interacting with friends, family, and whatnot, and you're just there not knowing what you can do to warn them. I just think that is really horrifying. Almost sleep paralysis like. If you're in a nightmare during sleep paralysis, that sense of hopelessness whilst you're an observer, a powerless observer within that horror aspect. So yeah, that is my last one. That is the mirror demon. So I think that does us for the day. I think that was a really good Halloween special. Maybe we'll do a few more that'll be released, but we'll record
I'd probably say
later.
the Puppet Master was my favorite selection from my list.
Yeah, I think mine maybe. Oh gosh, I don't even want to think because I've given myself the heebie-jeebies. But yeah, people watching this, let us know what villain you'd like to see into a horror movie down below because there's definitely a lot to pick from. Definitely a lot that I considered we didn't pick, but yeah, so many. So yeah, Mark, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me over on my YouTube channel or over at Instagram at MarkMarsh94 or over on Twitter at iGosLuigi.
Hey, so thank you so much. I'll leave that link in the description down below. So that was another episode on the channel. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a happy Halloween.